Hello, Mr. Stern. My name is Asa Antoniuk, and today I'll be giving a brief, easy-to-consume lesson regarding my previous pitch, releasing the pedal, and will highlight some considerations for our market and the cause for why our market is the way that it currently is. So without further ado, let's begin. As explained in my last video by the charts for our revenue over the years, we have been experiencing a consistent decrease in revenue since 2021. Whereas up until 2021 we were increasing our profits annually, and as also explained, for what could be the cause of the decline could be a combination of product elasticity, decreasing demand, and market competition. For the sake of timing, we will combine elasticity and demand into one and explain market competition separately. Let's begin with elasticity, or rather, more broadly, elasticity and demand's influence on elasticity. For elasticity, we understand how elasticity works based simply on how people go out of their way to go to so-and-so a place to purchase so-and-so a product and willfully pay so-and-so a price. Consumers are driven by these urges or the demand for one particular reason. They didn't see anyone else offer the so-and-so product, and that is precisely why if they do buy it, they buy it from that particular producer, a lack of substitute. We see this happening often with all great and new market-ready inventions. Take the iPhone for instance. When people wanted the iPhone, the last thing they were thinking was, nah, I'd rather buy something else just as good, when no comparable product ever even existed up until that point. Now that the Galaxy phone, for example, does exist, people are now forced to make a choice, and that choice will divide the mobile phone market. This is very much true for the fitness industry. Since the Peloton bike, new and innovative inventions have come out that don't require you to sit for multiple hours a week like the Tonal Gym or the Mirror, which Lululemon recently bought out. And those are just some of the things that we are only currently competing with, and who knows what other things we will be up against within the following years. Now what about competition? Well, to explain competition or give a fair understanding of competition, let's imagine a casino, and since I live in Auburn, I'll use Muckleshoot Casino as an example, though I personally have never been. Muckleshoot Casino can be explained as the bank, along with all that which a producer has to pay. And with the bank, you are always having to give up money to them one way or another because you are indebted to them one way or another. This is the underlying difference between playing one to two types of games you can be playing. The first game is going to be the slot machines, which is also going to include solitaire. With these games, there are only two players, you the producer, and the dealer, the bank. The second game is going to be the card tables. With these games include many players, and that includes the dealer, once again the bank. Note, for every variation of these games, we can refer to them as being their own unique market. For example, blackjack can be its own market, craps can be its own market, solitaire can be its own market, etc., etc. This is what market competition is on an incredibly tiny scale. When you are in a very unique market and there is no competitors, you only have to worry about the bank and other forms of fixed and variable costs. In other words, to play solitaire, you only have to compete with yourself, so to speak. But with blackjack, now there are multiple producers doing exactly what you are doing, playing by the market's rules, with similar hands, all in an attempt at turning a profit. This is almost precisely what a competitive market is like. Peloton, though I can't exactly track when it has become in a competitive market, but as of today's standards, it's never been more obvious that it's in a competitive market. If I can steer your attention to the left of the slide here, you will realize that I snipped a copy of Amazon's bestsellers for exercise bikes, and notice Peloton isn't even within the range from 1 to 10, but rather it is the 10th bestseller. In other words, we are no longer among one of the only options within our product, but rather we are on one of dozens of options, and this is just for the bike on its own. To conclude my slides, I have created a series of questions to get you up to speed on the lecture. For the first question, which of these could be responsible for Peloton's elasticity? Would be the first one, substitutes for Peloton smart treadmills becoming available, alternatives to cardio training becoming available, or all of the above? For the second question, which of these would be Peloton's closest competitor? Samsung, Lululemon, Nordic Track, or Tonal? And these would be the answers to those questions. For the first one, it would be both that substitutes for Peloton's smart treadmill have become available and alternatives to cardio training have also become available. Hence the reason for why Peloton's market for the smart treadmill could become elastic or has become elastic. For the last question, which of these would be Peloton's closest competitor? NordicTrack amongst these is one of the only ones that actually produces a smart treadmill, whereas Samsung produces a wearable health device, Lululemon can produce the mirror, and Tonal has the smart gym, but neither of these are a close alternative to the actual smart treadmill which Peloton produces, unlike NordicTrack.